Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss my thoughts on the sudden resignation announcement from Nicola Sturgeon this morning, because it will almost certainly have major ramifications for British politics in the immediate future. I will say there will be a lot more coming out, but it's quite big news. I don't necessarily think I'd be able to add to it in the next few days, so I thought I'll get my initial thoughts out early and then add more as I learn something of interest, which may not be for a week or two. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So this is about as hastily arranged as Nicola Sturgeon's resignation announcement itself. There I was getting ready to upload the video for 12 o'clock, and then this bombshell dropped. Boom! Now, first of all, as people will know, I'm a Labour supporter. That makes me an opponent of the SNP. But it would be fairly silly and certainly churlish of me not to recognise that my strong opinion is that Nicola Sturgeon is the most effective major political leader in Britain right now. And that right now has its days numbered. Although the news will come as a surprise to many, you could sort of get a sense of it. The Tory media for the last couple of weeks have clearly smelled blood. It's been impossible not to read, particularly the Scottish Tory press, but also around the rest of Britain as well, and not get a feeling that they'd finally broken through her armour over the gender recognition reform bill. But it would seem ridiculous to me to suppose that this is what has finished her off. For a start, as with all leaders, the pressure will be internal from the SNP, not external from Tory rags, which have been probing her defences for years. At the end of the day, not only is the SNP an opponent of the Conservatives, but under Sturgeon has been an impressively successful one. But they can't touch her, only her own party. There was a feeling that all was not well earlier on, before the issues over controversial bills, which actually were supported by MSPs from all the mainstream parties in Scotland and a clear majority of MSPs from 4 out of the 5 main ones. So not really controversial in the usual sense. But I think back to Sturgeon's pseudo-referendum plan for Scottish independence. It was a plan detailed well in advance. If the Supreme Court case did not go their way, and few thought it would, and indeed it didn't, then she would have SNP candidates standing for the next Westminster elections do a sort of referendum. There'd be no policies. It would be made absolutely clear that a vote for the SNP was a vote for a referendum. Zero other policies. Sturgeon was clear that she would take the number of votes cast to be important, not the number of candidates won. It all sounded very clear, very fair, and very clever. Then, quite recently, all seemed to change. She suddenly announced that, yeah, we might do this for the next Westminster election, or maybe we'll do it for the next Holyrood election, which would be completely insane. Insane. The SNP have power in Holyrood. Why on earth would they jeopardise that to use the Scottish elections as a pseudo-referendum instead of the Westminster ones, which they can easily sacrifice if necessary? And more to the point, why the hasty change of plan? This long-term plan, detailed plan, all of a sudden hastily changed. That looks chaotic. What's going on? And even Sturgeon's announcement today was hastily arranged. She hasn't stepped down. She's not said, that's it, I'm off, you sort your own mess out, I'm sick of you. She's going to continue until a successor is chosen. It was only the announcement that was hastily arranged. So why did she have to rush to announce it? There was clearly trouble at mill in the SNP. I knew some were losing patience with Sturgeon, but you get that in all parties. We have to remember the SNP, like Labour and the Conservatives, it's really a coalition of various factions. It has to cover too broad a range of voters in order to win power, to be narrow in its interests. Only with the SNP, you could argue it could be more strained at times because their common belief is one of national identity, not political philosophy. So there's lots of different political philosophies in there, and yet they have to pick one in order to have a manifesto for power. They're in government. They have to have policies on domestic issues. And various factions within the party will disagree quite strongly on those, much more than in Labour and the Conservatives. And I don't know what has finally caused this to happen. Sturgeon has been leader for just over 8 years now. That's a long time. People do itch for a change of leadership after a while. Doesn't matter how well the incumbent's done. You know, people active in political parties are not always especially astute or reasonable. Now, maybe there's a really bright talent waiting in the wings. Maybe there's a new leader who is every bit as sharp as Sturgeon, but without the mantle of familiarity breeding contempt about them. Maybe the new leader will push the party to new heights, just as Sturgeon did after Salmond. But unless this is the case, I think the SNP have probably made a mistake. Dan Hodges of the Mail said that the biggest winner from this is Keir Starmer. Now, Hodges is a shill. Everything he says is designed to suck people into the Daily Mail rabbit hole and trap them there. But without knowing if the SNP have got a really good replacement lined up, I tend to agree with this. It's not unknown. If the SNP are changing leader for the sake of changing leader, they're running a very unwise risk. If they elect a new leader who is driven, say, more strongly by ideology than pragmatism, someone who stands on a platform of Sturgeon wasn't sufficiently committed to the cause is always a vote loser, by the way, then it will go wrong. The reason Labour have fallen so far in Scotland was partly down to the chaotic way they handled their loss of power over a decade ago, but also down to the SNP. See, for a dominant political party to fall, it is not enough to lose touch with voters. The Tories did that years ago. There has to be a credible alternative. The SNP made themselves the credible alternative to Labour. If they attempt to reposition themselves along ideological lines, they could allow a newly focused Labour Party to swoop in. My problem is, I don't really know how to gauge just what sort of a risk the SNP are taking here. See, I know a great deal of what happens within the Labour Party because I'm a very inquisitive member. I'm inside it. I sort of know what goes on within the Tory party because most of the mainstream media is Tory and they have very big mouths. There are some pro-SNP media which I read. Not enough of it to make me think I'm getting a balanced view, so I don't really know what to make of this. Until I see leadership contenders emerge and research their backgrounds, I won't really know much. But my initial reaction is, as I say, the SNP are taking a big risk here and I don't see an obvious gain. Sturgeon hasn't really been damaged by recent events, and nor had it caused damage to the party. This was clearly an issue that's been bubbling up for a while now and may have more to do with ideology along the Scottish referendum strategy than anything else. And if that is the case, Labour indeed will be the main beneficiaries. But there we are. Those are my initial thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, the join button for memberships. And until next time, I'll see you later.